operationalized the landmark loss and damage fund at COP28 this year. There is loss and there is damage. You can see it in Nepal. There must be a compensation for it. The Nepalese people depend on it. For families that have lost their home to storms, for communities forced to abandon their villages by rising rivers, loss and damage is not a negotiating point or a bureaucratic abstraction, it is a lifeline. Dear parliamentarian colleagues, Nepal has long been a friend to the international system, and today their system is in dire need of refresh, revitalization and reform. The world is in a state of flux. It is moving towards multipolarity, and that is a good thing. A multipolar world provides new opportunities for leadership and balance on the global stage. But this new dynamic requires strong multilateral institutions to maintain peace. History shows us that. At the beginning of the 20th century, Europe was multipolar, but without strong multilateral institutions, it descended into war that engulfed the world. That is not a risk we can take. We need strong international reformed institutions that reflect the realities of today. But ours, like the Security Council or the Bretton Woods system, mirror the world in which they were founded almost 80 years ago. They correspond to 1945. They do not correspond to what is the world in 2023. That must change. Developing countries must have far greater representation in international institutions. I have called for reform of the outdated United Nations Security Council. And I have proposed measures to reform the global financial architecture so that it better represents developing countries and responds to their needs. And these proposals are gaining traction at this year's United Nations General Assembly and beyond. But of course, there is always the resistance of those that benefit from the present unfair systems. The United Nations Summit of the Future next year is an important chance to push further progress, and I count on Nepal's support to help make the change we need a reality. Dear parliamentarian colleagues, multilateralism must both reflect the world and respond to it. That means creating the institutions and tools we need to address new threats and to seize new opportunities. Today, technology is an example of both. It can solve problems and spur development, or it can entrench divisions and inflame inequality. Today, it's doing too little of the former and too much of the latter. We need a global response to the technologies that are changing the world at astonishing speed, to harness them for the good of humanity. And all countries must have a say, not only the most rich countries in the world that have more resources to develop those new technologies. My high-level board on artificial intelligence includes experts from G77 countries, the Global South. It will report this year, so member states can consider global governance options for artificial intelligence. And it also bring the benefits of technology to all and ensure that a new technological era, no one is left behind. This is the purpose of the Global Digital Compact the United Nations is proposing. It aims to bring together governments and industry to ensure that technology works for all and accelerate the Sustainable Development Goals. And I hope the Summit of the Future will be an excellent chance to push progress. As a steadfast champion of multilateralism, peace, and developing countries' interests, Nepal will be a vital ally at the summit. Dear parliamentary colleagues, it has been my great pleasure to visit this extraordinary country over the past few days. What I've seen confirms a simple truth. Nepal is a friend of the world, so the world must be a better friend to Nepal. And the United Nations will never stop fighting to make that a reality, and I thank you.
अब म महामहिम एन्टोनियो गुटेरेसलाई आसन ग्रहण गर्न आग्रह गर्दछु. Now I would like to request His Excellency to be seated. माननीय सदस्यहरू, संयुक्त राष्ट्रसङ्घका महासचिव महामहिमबाट आज सङ्घीय संसदको दुवै सदनको संयुक्त बैठकलाई भएको सम्बोधनप्रति निम्नलिखित धन्यवाद प्रस्ताव प्रस्तुत गर्दछु। धन्यवाद प्रस्ताव। संयुक्त राष्ट्रसङ्घका महासचिव महामहिम एन्टोनियो गुटेरेसबाट नेपालको सङ्घीय संसदको दुवै सदनको संयुक्त बैठकलाई गर्नुभएको सम्बोधनको लागि संयुक्त सदनको यो बैठक महामहिमप्रति धन्यवाद ज्ञापन गर्दछ। Motion of thanks. This joint sitting of the Federal Parliament of Nepal expresses its gratitude to the Secretary General of the United Nations, His Excellency Antonio Guterres, for his address to the joint sitting of the both houses of the Federal Parliament. माननीय सदस्यहरू, उक्त धन्यवादको प्रस्तावलाई सहमति जनाइदिनु हुन म आग्रह गर्दछु। माननीय सदस्यहरू, यो बैठक स्थगित भए पश्चात सम्पूर्ण माननीय सदस्यहरू आफ्नो स्थानमा उभिएर महासचिव महामहिम एन्टोनियो गुटेरेसलाई बिदाई गरिदिनु हुन म आग्रह गर्दछु। माननीय सदस्यहरू, सङ्घीय संसदको दुवै सदनको संयुक्त बैठक यहीँ स्थगित हुन्छ।